What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar with C-Zar Gets Crypto, and we're not talking about crypto today. We're going to talk about the DXY, the dollar. For those of you that don't know, if you're using TradingView, you type in DXY. That will take you to the dollar currency index, the US dollar. And this is basically an index. You know, it's not saying that the dollar is worth $100, $103. It's an index based on like all the world currencies, the major like recognized world currencies. And there are, generally it works like this, right? Think of it like Bitcoin dominance, right? But this is the dollar's dominance versus other currencies. If it's going up, generally it's gaining value against most currencies in the world. If it's going down, generally other currencies are gaining value against the dollar, especially the bigger ones, right? Like the Chinese yuan, the euro, the Great British pound, even the Australian dollar, right? Canadian dollar. You know, even smaller ones can do well, but like can do well, and the dollar's index can go down. But generally, when this thing's going up, most currencies are not going up. Generally, when this thing's going down, most currencies are going up, or at least the big ones. But my last video that I made about the DXY was down here. Actually, I think I made it down here. I know I have a let's go to x.com here. I can do x.com, baby. Yeah, takes us right to Twitter. And I was talking about this on the Discord because somebody posted something about the dollar. I forget, and it said the dollar is about to burst. I don't know if that meant in a good way, like to the upside or to the downside, but I was just saying, calling for the lower low. This was on July 14th. Here we are on August 16th. 99.9 just for the pictographic proof there, and here we are at 103. 99.9 was all the way down here, literally one of these 3 days that we were at the, I guess 4 days that we were at the low, right? And that could be a momentary low. It's possible that we could turn down and continue to build like lower highs and lower lows. That is possible, don't get me wrong, but I think the dollar's bottomed, and here's why I kind of think that. I think that was the bottom of this overall downtrend, because what we're doing is we've bounced off of this area once, twice, 3 times, right? We actually bounced right off the oversold zone. We are getting to a point right now where the dollar, the RSI, is looking like it wants a higher high than this. If that happens, I would expect that this could get above this high, and if we get on a closing basis on a weekly above that high, I think that would be the first step in acknowledging that we are done with this overall downtrend that we've been in with the dollar since September of 2022. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that if you take your 123 123 moving average, 123 moving average, we have bounced off of this line very well. We actually tipped it before, bounced right off it before. We have held it as support a couple times. When we broke through it, that was the end of it, right? But this time you can see we bounced off it, we bounced off of it. Here we bounced off it, but we kind of hugged it, and then we broke through it, right? Here you bounced off it, you hugged it, but you kind of, you were hugging it from the downside first, and you came up, you kind of had a little arm wrestling match with it, and then, you prevailed inevitably, but then you end up not prevailing, whatever. But here you found it as resistance and down, right? Go back here, broke above it. It wasn't go time before you broke above it, it was go time after you broke above it. And what I'm trying to get to is really, recently, bounced off it here, phenomenal things. Bounced off it here, we did not hug it. It's looking like phenomenal things. This RSI looks really strong right now. It looks like it wants to be really strong. Technically, it's kind of neutral, but a bounce like this right off the oversold zone, taking us to what looks like we're about to see like a higher high in the RSI. Could take us to higher highs in this price, relative to this here. That could really mark the end of this overall down move, and I'm kind of excited for that. If you look at it on a monthly perspective, here's where things also get exciting, right? You bounced off of this 50 area. You found a double bottom on the RSI, okay? And let's see. Yeah, you had a double bottom on the RSI. You could bullishly engulf this month, but not only bullishly engulf. This candle pattern right here is what is known, this candlestick is known as a Maru Bazoo, where there's little to no wick at all to the downside or the upside. It's just a straight green candle. And right now we're halfway through the month. This could change. We could come down. We could go up more and then come down, have a little wick to the upside. But at the moment, it looks like a Maru Bazoo. It's a very bullish looking candle. On a 3-month chart, we're a little bit over halfway, but basically halfway. This looks like a reversal candle to me. And if we look at it, again, still on this 3-month chart on an overall basis, you can see we're in a prevailing uptrend. We've actually been in a prevailing uptrend since the housing crisis in 2008, 2007. And if we take the low here to that high, we bounced, we actually held. I know it looks like, and we did go below the 236, but really we held it. Just as we wicked above it, but we closed at it, we held it as resistance. We wicked below it, but we closed at it and held it as support. We've actually confirmed that, and I think this is a fake out for the first part of this 3-month candle, and we are coming up for glory at the current point in time, which isn't necessarily good for a lot of assets. But the dollar can go up. A lot of people think the dollar, the DXY, goes up, and then Bitcoin has to go down, or cryptos have to go down, or stocks have to go down. That's not the case. It doesn't. I mean, that happens. It's correlated that way to some degree. But there's been plenty of times that Bitcoin has been in a bull market while the dollar's gone up. Let me prove it to you right here. Ready? Dollar has been going up since 2008. What else has been going up since about 2009, 2010? Bitcoin, crypto. You know what I mean? So it's the dollar here topped off when July of 2022. Well, Bitcoin did not bottom in July of 2020. Did it bottom in July of 2022? Let's see. Let me see here. No, it bottomed in October of 2022. So it's not directly correlated. They actually both went down together in unison to a certain degree, right? But let's see, what else we want to talk about? Maybe the 3-month RSI. I don't know. 3-month RSI looks bullish too. The monthly RSI looks bullish to me. Neutral but bullish. The daily RSI looks very bullish. Wow, that's beautiful, man. Overbought, you could see some kind of reprieve soon, but you don't have to right now. You could just continue to go higher, but I don't know. Seeing a little bit of a break right here wouldn't be totally out of the question. Let's see if you're in an area that makes sense. Top to bottom, not really, but let's see on a more relative perspective maybe. Yeah, you're at the 786. Really, man, what happened is you rejected the 618 first time on this first week here, and then you continue to build up. You broke through it, and now you're through it again. This generally implies that you will see extensions, and the minimum extension would be at 106 to 107, this kind of range. You could even go higher. This is a small fib range, so seeing deeper extension levels is not out of the question at all, which would, a 2618 would put us right around these previous highs, 3618 even up above that. But the minimum extensions to meet would take us not only out of a higher or a lower high scenario, it would give us a higher high, it would take us out of this kind of range we've been in. It would take us, up to a minimum of 106, which is even above this high back here and this high back here. So that could be the beginning of an overall breakout of this kind of like range that we saw to the downside. And I've identified this before. I don't know what it's called necessarily, but I've identified it as like the reverse bow and arrow, or the reverse bow. I don't know if I say the arrow can be the price, but it's like and you can see it. It can be like that, or it can be you can have it like that too on the top side. And the reason I say that is because the way this looks, it looks like if it was a bow, if I was shooting it, right, it would look like the arrow would go like this way, and it would go like up, right, this direction, somewhere up that way. But really, it's the reverse, because generally, whenever you see this, the direction that it looks like it would go, it actually goes to the downside. And it kind of makes sense if you look at it. It's a double top. It's somewhat of it's not a double bottom here, but it is overall. It's an M and it's a W, right? And you kind of see it's very. I know that I might be losing a couple of you on this, but I swear that this is a pattern that I've seen a few times, like more than a few times in my time trading, where you get an overall W, but at the bottom of the W you get an M pattern, or you get an overall M, but at the top of the M you get a W pattern. I've seen this kind of thing happen plenty of times. There's probably a name for it. I don't know what it's called, so I call it the reverse bow, because again, I would think if this thing looks like a bow, which to me it kind of looks like a bow would, the arrow would go this way, but instead we are, and the price, you know what I mean, but instead we normally go the opposite way. We go the reverse of that. So reverse bow and arrow, or the reverse bow, as I like to call it. Anyways, I don't know what the actual name for it is. I'm sure there is a name for it. It could just be called a W. I don't know, but a W with an M in it. I don't know. But overall, besides that look in itself, besides theories that I don't know necessarily what they're called, here on this overall fib channel, it would look like we have a price target at about 105, or I guess a reading target at about 105. This isn't the price again. And if we break above this high here, I don't think it stops there. I think we'd at least go to the 618 somewhere up here and potentially even higher. If we take it out even further than that, go back to the 3-month, we are in a solid uptrend with the dollar, right? And we possibly just found another low. We've been making higher lows and higher highs throughout this whole thing. Could we go lower than this inevitably? It's possible, you know, but could we make strides higher than that even? Yeah, absolutely we could. Yeah, I don't know. RSI looks very strong here. It definitely looks very strong on the 3-month. I wonder what the 6-month looks like. Strong on the 12-month actually as well. Got a lot of time on this, so you can kind of use these. You know, realistically too, looking at it from the 12-month, we take it from a high to low. You can see that we are above the 618. We got above it on the first pass. Came back below it, found a little bit of resistance on the second pass, but the third pass, and generally with the third pass, I would say you find significance on the 886 or 786, but we came down to the 618 area, rejected it again. I do think it wants to see extensions, which ultimately means it wants to see highs that it hasn't seen since 2001, and that can take years. That can take years. And the real reason, if you've hung around all this time, I wanted to say this earlier, but I got a little bit lost in the TA side of things. The real reason I wanted to talk about this is because I'm sorry, I got something in my throat, man. Is because I hear a lot of people talking about how the dollar's going to zero. The dollar's going to zero. China, Russia, they're going to replace us as the world reserve currency. You know, the U.S. dollar will no longer be a thing, and I think that's a bunch of malarkey, you guys. Generally, whenever I hear the media all saying the same thing, even secondary sources of media that are like not part of the woke agenda or are part of the, you know, like whatever, like that, not the main things like CNN and CNBC and Fox, whatever, even secondary sources where it's just like individuals kind of reporting their own information through their podcasts or socials itself. Whenever I hear everybody saying the same thing, which everybody last month, we go back, right, a month ago, whenever we were surprise at these lows, everybody was saying that the dollar was going to zero. And that's what made me make this post saying, calling for low on the DXY. I saw enough videos, I'm like, you know what, this actually looks good. It's in an area that it's bounced before. I'm calling it low on the DXY. And, you know, not only that, but on the weekly, we also kind of bounced right off of the 50 area, which is just a classic maneuver, especially with this purple line here. It doesn't always happen, but it is something that I see happen time and time again with the 123 moving average and the 123 RSI. And back to the reason I want to talk about this video is that, you know, I think that there's something going on. Here's my conspiracy theory, okay, is that I think that there are people who are in control of things, right? You know, I'm sure everybody thinks that there's somebody running the show, right? Maybe it's somebody's, whatever. Maybe we're all just fumbling around, not knowing what's going on, and nobody's running the show. I don't know. But regardless of what you believe, there are people who are in power who more or less know what they're doing. And they might not be smart, but they know how to keep control. They know how to keep the power. And with money, it makes it very easy. Okay, it makes it actually very easy. The more money you have, the more power you have. The less money you have, the less power you have, right? You could have $1 billion, it's still not enough money to change the world, right? If you have less than $1 million, the more money that have the more people that have not a lot of money, the less likely that they are going to have like a significance in the overall power structure of things, okay? So if the people in power want to create more power for themselves and take away more money from the people, the good people of the world, how do they do that? Well, they do it through money. They really do it through money. And a lot of media was talking about down here how the dollar is going to zero. And I don't care if you're American. I don't care if you're Puerto Rican. I guess, you know, Puerto Rican's the United States territory. I don't care if you live in the UK, China, whatever. The United States is the world reserve currency. It's something that all the rich people, I don't care what country you're from, they've got some U.S. dollar, right? Or they've got some kind of something that's backed in U.S. dollar, you know. And they probably hold their own native currencies as well, of course, but everybody's got some U.S. dollar, right? And I don't think that's I think that that's a symbol, right? I think that that's a status. That's an indication that the dollar is not going away, man. It really isn't going away. CBDC's come out, whatever. I don't think the dollar's going away. But whenever they make you think that the dollar's going away, what's that make you want to do? As an investor, as an individual, that makes you want to do what? Sell your dollars. For what? Real estate, for cryptocurrencies, for stocks, for commodities, for anything, for other currencies even, right? It makes you want to get rid of your dollar. Surely if the dollar is going to zero, I'm going to be a smart person and I'm going to sell my dollar. That's what it makes you think, right? But really what happens is real estate, cryptocurrency, stocks, commodities, whatever else there might be, takes a shit while the dollar continues to gain in value. And then while your commodities, while whatever it is that you've bought in your securities, whatever assets you've bought in place of the dollar is increasing in value, and those assets are decreasing in value. And who's selling it onto the people who just bought it? You know, if you were someone that bought, if you sold your dollars for other things, who are the people that are selling it? Probably the people with the big bags, with the big money. They're selling it to you at the higher prices, and then it goes down. So they sold you the assets at a higher price for your dollars at a lower price, right? And now the dollar is gaining value, your assets are going down. Who's going to sell their assets because they need to pay rent, they need food, they need to pay for their children or whatever. They need money to live life because they're not in the top 1% of people. You know what I mean? Like who are the people that are likely going to be put in a tough financial situation where they have to sell? It's not going to be the people that have unlimited money and access to the money printer, man. It's going to be the people that are everyday people just like you and me, and they sell their assets that they bought at a higher price while the dollar was at a lower price. They took they took their dollar, they sold low, they bought their assets, they bought high, and now they're in a predicament where they have to buy back into the dollar, aka sell their assets for the dollar. So you're selling low for the assets now, and you're buying high for the dollar. And then who are you selling it to whenever you sell your assets? Likely the same people that you bought it from whenever the assets were worth higher, and they're just getting richer. You know what I mean? And it's not that cut and dry. You know, after all, markets and stuff like that, it is a trading game. You know, to some degree, guys, you have to be comfortable with the fact that we are taking money from each other. Any money that you make from trading is money that somebody else once had. You know, hopefully it's somebody who doesn't deserve it as much as you do. But who are we to know? You know, it's if you're entering in this game. I know that there's a real what's the word I'm looking for? Moral question. What? It starts with an E. I can't think of the word. I don't know, but it's something to do with morality. I can't. You know, it's a moral debate. Oh man, I want to say aesthetic, but it's not aesthetic. It's what is it? Hold on, real quick. Ethics. It's a debate. It's a debate of ethics. It's whether it's ethical or not to participate in markets, because again, if you get rich, odds are somebody else got poor to make you rich, right? Somebody bought your bags down here. They bought or sold you bags down here. They sold low while you bought low, and now you're making money. And whenever you sell up here, you might be selling to somebody, likely the retail investors who don't know any better, and you're selling up high to people who are buying up high. You know, odds are that happens a good bit of the time. But regardless, man, this is a game. This is a big boy game and a big girl game. You know, adults only. You really can't be doing this if you're a kid. If you lack maturity emotionally or in a moral sense either, because this is something we all know what we're getting into. And back to what I'm trying to say is that the people who control the markets, who control the world, who are in power, they know just as well as you and I do what they're getting into, and they know how to do this stuff. They've been doing it for a while, man. And I really do think that whenever you hear a bunch of media telling you that the dollar is going to zero, that should make you think, man, if I can walk down the street and say the dollar's going to zero, and every single person who probably doesn't know shit about money or about markets or anything like that, they're just like, oh yeah, man, dollar's going to zero. China and Russia is going to be the new world currency. You know, they're going to take over. Like, if everybody's saying that, do you think everybody actually do you think the powers that be want everybody to be educated in the global plans of the world reserve currency? Or do you think they want to mess with people, get them tricked, sell their dollars for assets that are more expensive than they should be. Those assets drop in price, and then then you're selling your assets because you have to cover your own ass for living expenses. And then the people that literally sold it to you whenever it was up high, now that it's down low, they're gonna buy it back from you and double down, man. They're gonna cash out, and that's again back to the point I was saying. It's like I don't think that that's exactly how it happens with everything. Again, there's people like you and me out there who can make profits from that too, but on a whole, the rich keep getting richer, and this is a way how. And they use the media to do this, man. And I think I'm just getting away from the TA here, talking more again like kind of like a conspiracy theory here, but I really do believe that that's kind of what's happening, because guess what? I didn't hear nobody talking about the dollar going to zero up here, right? I haven't been seeing on the socials at all for the past few weeks anybody talking about the dollar going to zero now. I don't hear anybody talking about it. But it was all over the media down here. It wasn't up here, right? It wasn't up here. It was all down here. It was all down here. And guess what? The next time we have a low in the dollar, it'll probably happen again. But overall, if we look at this thing on a monthly basis, the dollar has been on a steady, and this is the index versus all world currencies. Low, higher low. High, higher high. Higher lows, higher highs. All throughout the range, man. All throughout the range. So we've been in an uptrend for almost 2 decades now in the dollar, okay? And we're looking like we want to end this downtrend, or at least we want to have our first major macro higher high that we've had since 1985, man. Because like on this chart's history, all we've done is have lower highs. Could we continue that? At a certain point, could we continue that? Maybe. But this does it not kind of look like, maybe if we put it on a 6 month, it looks a little bit more obvious. Does it not look kind of like some form of a W? And if it does look like a W, I want to keep you guys in mind here with this thought. W's, first off, they do break this high. They do. Even if it's a failed W, even if it's a successful W, they do. But if it's a successful W, what this thing's going to do, and I'll draw it a little bit more pretty here for you guys. What this is going to do, if it's a successful W, is the second leg is going to be larger than the first leg. That's how it is. And by larger, I mean that this top will be above this top here. Could the dollar literally be in a decade-long rally right now, multi-decades long, where we will all be 20 to 30 years older before it even breaks this high, maybe even older than that? But could it be in a century-long rally where it goes above this high? It could. It really could be, guys. And that's 1985. You know what I mean? This is all the way back in 2008. So that's about 20 years there. We're about 15 years in right now. So could we go another 15 years into 2030 and maybe be right back around these highs? I think that's possible. But I think this is a long game, and I don't think that the rich people of the world are going to give up their dollars, and I certainly don't think they're going to give them up for the Russian ruble and the Chinese yuan. As much as all the propaganda wants to make that seem possible, as much as there's like all these like truthful and factually based articles that come out as to why that could happen, fact of the matter is, man, like the dollar it's cash is king. Cash is king, and the only time that people say that is whenever we're at the highs, right? They want to say that it's going to zero at the lows, but all it's been doing is having higher lows. So cash is king. The dollar is king. It is the world's reserve currency. All of the rich people in the world own it. I can bet that maybe most rich people even own Chinese yuan or other foreign currencies. That's probably a thing. But I bet all of them, not most of them, but all of them own some form of the dollar. Whether it's something that's tied to the dollar or just directly dollars in their bank accounts, offshore bank accounts, whatever. That's the thing. And if there's one thing that I think we all know about rich people is they don't want to give up their dollars. They want to get more of them. So and a good way to do that, again, is to trick people, is to portray ideas in the media that make it seem like the dollar's worthless when really it's just been gaining value. So you give up your worthless dollars for these assets that go down, and then once those assets go down, you sell them, and then as the dollar's been going up, so now you sell them for a loss, and then the assets finally turn up, and then it's just a vicious cycle that repeats itself. So I'm just repeating myself. I've gone a little bit deeper into this than I wanted to. I hope I didn't get too off base here and lose anybody, but if I did, that's okay. If you like the video, leave a thumbs up, subscribe to see more. I do think that the dollar is on its way higher from here. I don't think that it's done, and that's not necessarily a good thing for assets. It's not necessarily a bad thing either. We are overbought overall on the RSI. We are actually at higher levels than we've been in like over a year now. A little bit under a year actually, but we could go higher. We very much could go higher. We could turn around here too at any moment, but just because we're in the overbought zone doesn't mean we have to go lower right now. The last time we were in the overbought zone was back here. First moment of it right here was this, and then we continued to build higher. And then the second moment of it was right here, and we went higher for a few days after that even. We've been in it now for at least since August 15th. It is the 16th as of right now. On this chart, it's actually the 17th. So maybe we do turn around at a certain point, but if we go lower, I don't know if it'll be too much lower. It'll probably just be a pit stop. This overall uptrend to me looks a little bit different than it kind of looks similar, I guess, to this one. Kind of similar. It's bigger than this one over here was, that's for sure. It's more pronounced than this one was over here. It kind of reminds me of this one over here, but the readings are stronger, and you've been overbought for longer. I think that will ultimately produce a stronger move and potentially even give us something that'll take us out of this lower high kind of trend that we're in. That was a crappily drawn line, but you guys see what I'm saying, right? Anyways, again, back to this thing. I think we are in this kind of like this weird W with an M. Man, I can't draw. Let me make this easier for me to draw real quick. I think that we're in this kind of thing right here, which I have seen time and time again as a bottoming or a topping signal. It just depends on which way we're at, But anyways, guys, that's all I got for you. If you like the video, leave a thumbs up. I appreciate all of you. Take care. Bye-bye.